This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for August 14th, 2026. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Friday edition of the podcast, a feel-good Friday here. It's going to be kind of a mixed bag weekend. Beautiful tomorrow and then rain all day Sunday. But let's get into it. And just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Good win for the Phillies last night. It was a fun game, the Field of Dreams game. 7-1, they won it. A couple Cornbombs by Kyle Schwarber. Brandon Marsh hit a corn bomb. And Aaron Nola has been 100% solid for the, month and a half, 2 months now. And they actually got him some run support last night. And just when I was ready to throw in the towel on this team, they showed me what they were capable of. Now, can they keep it up? Can they remain consistent like that? I don't know. Bullpen was solid. They got Rise was finally starting to hit, and I almost feel like since he came over, sort of he's been that cog for them. Like when he plays well, it sort of relaxes everybody else. Also doesn't help when Kyle Schwarber gets you started with a 1-0 lead on the first at bat of the game. But again, stark difference, a much-needed day off. They have been playing nonstop. Lots of extra inning games in there as well. So much-needed day off today before they go to Minnesota to finish off this rest of this series against the Twins. But like I said, I'll take it. That's what I was looking for. Still not all the way back on. I need to see it consistently. But if they're going to get hot, now would be a good time to do it. I also want to say the uniforms were outstanding. I love those uniforms. I love the hats. I wouldn't mind seeing them somehow because this style that I'm wearing now, City Connects are done after this year. I think they run a 3-year rotation with them. Wouldn't mind seeing them somehow incorporate something like that. I know they won't, but something like that. They were just a very good-looking jersey, and I really like that style P and the hat and everything. But overall, a great day. And let's recap yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, are the Phillies cooked? And it was pretty split on this, but more no's than yes. So I had a guy I was going back and forth with on TikTok and kind of explaining to me why they're not done yet. And it made some very compelling arguments. So after seeing last night's game, maybe they're not cooked yet. Maybe they're just sitting out on the counter, thawing out right now. And maybe we got to make that decision. Are we putting them back in the freezer? Or are we going to cook them? I'm leaning now toward maybe we put it back in the freezer. But Phillies Twins this weekend out in Minnesota. Just get this series. Get one win out of the next two. And hell, maybe go for a sweep would be nice. But let's not get greedy. But I will say, Aaron Nola, I was a little concerned when he gave up the meatball. But listen, if he's going to give up a meatball or two a game, but his knuckle curve was really working well. 9 strikeouts. If that's what he's going to pitch, I'll take it. The offense, you just need to wake up and be consistent. Eagles, Ravens tomorrow in Baltimore. First preseason game, and it's much needed. Things are starting to get chippy around the Jefferson Health Complex. Fights yesterday. You had Moro Jomo and Fred Johnson going at it. And I think that, to me, is a telltale sign that these guys are ready to hit somebody else that's not their teammate. I think sometimes fights are it's a good thing sometimes in training camp because it's like, all right, the aggression is there. And I know Nick Sirianni has been working them very hard, so we'll take it. I did want to say a couple things. One, there's a new Brotherly Birds breakdown out. Kyle and I recorded last night. Talked about the Jalen Hurts interception. Started previewing what we're looking for in tomorrow night's game. That is available wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. The Eagles social media team, speaking of that interception, I think lost in the Jalen Hurts, Quinyon Mitchell interception thing was they sort of teased something, and I thought the same thing, and I saw there was an article in the Inquirer today about it. They did, and if you ever watch the Eagles social media account, they do different things with the players, whether coming off the practice field, in the locker room, just fun, entertaining things that really let you get to know the guys as well as their personalities. But this time they were doing you've seen those matching games where they had 4 Eagles helmets underneath hidden from them and then 4 on top. And their goal was to try to match it up without being able to see. And I was just like, okay, they had the Kelly green, they had the black, and they had the regular midnight green. But then they had the white Kelly green, the ones they wore in the 70s, the white helmet with the Kelly green wing. And I was just like, why would they choose that one? And I know they needed a 4th helmet to figure it out. And then you go back to last year or last offseason, at some point, Jalen Hurts said, give me those white Kelly green jerseys. And Saquon made the comment, you have that power, Mr. Hurts. And then all of a sudden, are they teasing us with those white? Because I think that would be a phenomenal look. Just to do it. I know because of the NFL rules they can't do it this year, but are they teasing us with a possible white Kelly green comeback? Like I said, I just kind of chalked it up to, all right, they needed a 4th helmet. But then seeing that other people were saying the same thing, and now there's an article mentioning this post in the Inquirer, I don't know. One, it was a banner week for the Eagles social media team. If their job is to get engagement and clicks and whatever, mission completed this week. You guys you earned your money this week between getting into the Inquirer and then, of course, the right on cue tweet that sparked a national debate over a playoff or a training camp interception. Banner week for them. And I have to mention this because I thought this was cool. Kyle sent me this through, I believe, Instagram last night, but then I saw it on the news this morning on Channel 10. This little kid, Sammy, from Make-A-Wish, has a rare blood disorder, and one of his Make-A-Wish was to go see Jalen Hurts and meet Jalen Hurts. But his other part of his Make-A-Wish is he wanted to do sort of like a fundraiser, food drive, supply drive to help out homeless people, because he said it's sad to see the people walking up and down his street without anything. So he was able to get food, supplies, clothes, and things like that. Jalen found out about it. It was an awesome moment. I usually don't talk about things like that, but if you can, look this up. This little guy, Sammy. But it was an awesome moment, and just kind of goes to show you, one, how there's hope in our country that this dude who's like 9 or 10 years old wants to help, who has his own issues and everything, was thinking about other people first. Obviously, he got to meet Jalen, which was cool, but Jalen was impressed. They had a nice little conversation. But those are the kind of feel-good stories that make you feel good about the world we live in. So go check that out. I'm sure it's probably on the Eagles social media, but I know it was on Channel 10 News this morning. But just an awesome thing. And Eagles, bring back the white helmets. All right, the Union did lose last night to Santos Laguna. No harm, no foul. They had a very, very slim chance of moving on in the Leagues Cup anyway. They rested a lot of their starters, put a lot of bench guys in to get them some PT. So no big deal, but they pick up with their MLS schedule on Sunday up in New York to take on New York City Football Club. Let's keep this train rolling, Union. All right, yesterday's trivia question, worst loss in Phillies history, modern history. They lose to the Mutts 24-4 in 2018. All right, big game today. 2 local teams are playing for the Mid-Atlantic Championship in the Little League World Series, so we will have a rooting interest one way or the other. You have Naaman's Little League from Wilmington taking on Eastside Little League from Westchester, East Side. My cousin's son plays in, I think, the older age bracket, but East Side was very, very good Little League. So anxious to see how that game plays out. But we will have a rooting interest in the Little League World Series. One of my favorite, going back to when I was a kid in Little League, one of my favorite things. So we'll keep you updated on Monday on who we're rooting for in the Little League World Series. Is it going to be Naaman's? Is it going to be East Side? Time will tell. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Philly Jimbo, as well. That's where you can stay in the loop for all things my channel, my brand. And then continue to spread the word. If you're enjoying this, likely someone in your network will too. But hit those subscribe buttons. Can't stress that enough. Because people are starting to follow me on social media, because the YouTube channel is steadily growing, I'm getting more interactions with more people who are seeing this pop up. So if you can, go subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this. I mentioned the Brotherly Birds breakdown. That is out now. And of course, there's still time to go to the Jersey Shore. Let Beach Caddy take the stress out of it. If you're in Avalon, Wildwood, Ocean City, Sea Isle, or Stone Harbor, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your move in, move out, as well as your beach cart rental. All right, and then for today's question of the day, we got Eagles football this weekend. If you go to the Brotherly Birds breakdown, Kyle and I discuss what we're kind of watching for tomorrow night. But what are you looking for? What do you want to see out of this preseason game? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. But I think there's a lot of things to look at. One of the underrated things, I don't want to give away everything in the other podcast, but looking forward to seeing UR Bernard. Just the raw talent. Hopefully he gets some playing time. But what do you want to see in the Eagles preseason game? What specifics are you looking for? 267-495-8531. That is the Back to the Future voice and text line. And while you're there, get anything else Philly sports related off of your chest.
It's time for Fridays with AI, where we ask AI to rewrite Philly sports history. Every Friday, only on This Day in Philly Sports History.
That's right. It is Friday. Time for Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. They got you covered for your Philly sports apparel needs. All right. So we finished up the series with the Sixers, and I kind of really liked that direction that Fridays with AI went. So we're going to keep exploring that somewhat with a little bit of twist here and there. But we talked a lot over the past week about the 1981 MLB strike. And the Phillies won the first half in the NL East with a record of 34-21. Going into the strike, they were hot. They won 5 straight and 8 out of 10. Had a slight 1.5 game lead over the Cardinals. But they were up 4 in the win column. And everybody always says, well, the strike killed their momentum. They were getting hot. They were going to go back and repeat. And the way it was set up after the strike, they knew they were already in the postseason because they said first half winners versus second half winners. So they kind of stumbled, coasted, I guess you could say, to a 25-27 record down the stretch. Lost to the Expos in the NLDS in 5 games. So I asked AI. It was sort of a two-parter. I said, can you play out the 1981 season without the strike, keeping in mind that the teams that played well in the first half and clinch, all of them kind of stumbled down the stretch and coasted because they knew they were in the postseason. So AI did that, and it was the Phillies Cardinals. I mean, I think that's what you would have expected that year. But the Phillies used their experience to win the division by 2 games, winning it on the last weekend of the season. They took on the Reds, who the Reds were the most consistent team in the league, or one of them, definitely in the NL West. So they said the Reds would have won the division based on their play, setting up an NLCS between the Reds and the Phillies. So, of course, I said, AI, let's play this out. So I went to What If Sports, played it out, and what a series this was. Game 1 took place at the Vet because they rotated back and forth back then. So this was the NL East year to have home field. And Steve Carlton was solid, going 8 innings. Lonnie Smith went 2 for 3 with 4 RBI. Larry Boa had himself a day, 4 for 5, 2 RBI, 3 stolen bases, a double, and 2 runs scored as the Phillies jump out to a 1-0 lead, beating the Reds 9-4. Game 2, it was Tom Seaver's turn to put on a pitching clinic. 3 runs in 7 innings. Dick Ruthven struggled, forcing the Phillies to go to the bullpen early and use Game 4 potential starter Dickie Knowles out of the bullpen in long relief. Dickie Knowles held it down, and Mike Schmidt kept it close with a homer and 2 RBI, but the Reds pulled out 8-5 to send the series to Cincinnati tied. Game 3, Larry Christensen got shelled from the start, getting ran after 3 innings. Sparky Lyle was the designated long man for this game. Reds, though, were just pounding out hits, 15 hits. Ken Griffey and George Foster led the way as the Phillies managed only 5 hits, and the Reds win it 10-2 to go up 2-1. Game 4, the Phillies bounced back in a wild game. They were forced to start Marty Bystrom because Dickie Knowles was unavailable due to having to pitch long relief. Didn't matter. Bystrom was good, went back to his 1980 form. 6 innings, 4 earned runs. Phillies pound out 16 hits, score 14 runs. Bob Boone with 4 RBI. Manny Trio with a homer, triple, and 3 RBI as the Phillies win it 14-9 to force a winner-take-all Game 5 back at the Vet. And what a game this was. George Foster led off the top of the first with a 2-run shot off of Carlton. Mike Schmidt answered right back in the bottom of the first with a 2-run shot of his own. Lots of runs in the first 3 innings. Reds led it 6-4 after 3, and it stayed that way until the Phillies started to chip away late. And in the bottom of the 8th, they tied it up with shades of that 1980 NLCS against the Astros going through everybody's head. Sparky Lyle comes into the top of the 9th to try to hold the Reds, gives up an RBI double to Ron Oster, and then Tug gives up another run. Reds take the lead 8-6 going into the bottom of the 9th. But we know the Cardiac Kids, would they be able to make a comeback? Phillies got their first 2 runners on when Gary Matthews and Mike Schmidt walked. Unfortunately, they got stranded as the Reds win it 8-6, taking the series 3-2. George Foster was the MVP, and it begs the question then, and I know there are some people out here listening that were alive and followed this. Maybe the Reds got screwed because of the strike, and maybe the Phillies didn't. Maybe it didn't stop their momentum. Maybe they just were who they were, and knowing how they were that series in 1980 against the Astros, maybe their luck just ran out. But what do you think? Would the Phillies have won it if they didn't have the strike? How big of a play was that momentum or the strike to kill the momentum? I guess we'll never know. But AI says if there was no strike, Phillies, Reds in the NLCS, and then the Reds take it. But what do you think? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Any of my social media. But that is Fridays with AI, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your Philly sports apparel order. And over the next few weeks, we're going to do something similar with the Phillies each week. Not quite to this level, but this was like a what if the strike didn't happen. We're going to do some things with the 93 team. I got something for the 64 team as well. And then an interesting take on the 2008 team before we get into Eagle season. Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. All right, August 14th. First, we're going to go back to 1933. And on this day in 1933, the A's beat Cleveland 11-5 at the old Cleveland Stadium. Jimmy Fox went 4 for 5. He hit for the cycle and had 9 RBI. The only time he hit for the cycle in his career. The 9 RBI set an A's team record, which stood until 1969 when Reggie Jackson broke it. And there's Philly ties all around in there. The A's were in Philly. Reggie Jackson's from Cheltenham. But Jimmy Fox in 1933 won the Triple Crown, hitting .356 with 48 homers and 163 RBIs to win his second consecutive MVP award. And that leads us into today's trivia question. Which Phillies have won back-to-back MVP awards? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, any social media, or the Discord channel where the link is in the description. But which Phillies have won back-to-back MVP awards? And then fast forward to 1981. We're going to go back to that 1981 season again. Phillies beat the Mets 8-4 up in Chase Stadium. Keith Moreland had a homer and 5 RBI. Mike Schmidt also homered in this game off of Mike Scott, number 300 for his career, becoming the first Philly to reach the 300 home run mark. And then 1 year later, it was more milestones. Phillies and Expos played a wild one up at the old Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Phillies scored 9 runs in the 8th inning to erase an 8-4 deficit. Bill Robinson pinch hit for George Vukovic. He led off with a single and then hit a grand slam to break it wide open as the Phillies win it 15-11. Pete Rose led off this game with a fly out to left field. It was his 12,365th at-bat. He passed Hank Aaron for the most at-bats all time in Major League Baseball history, and he would just continue to add to that as his career progressed. More milestones. This is a milestone day here for this day in Philly sports history. 1984, Phils lose to the Padres 3-2 in San Diego. Ivan De Jesus homered. Juan Samuel scored on a Von Hayes single after stealing second base. It was his 56th stolen base of the season, setting a Phillies modern single-season record for stolen bases in a season, passing Cherry McGee. He would end the year with 72, which still is the Phillies record today. And back in the 1800s, and I will say this because depends on who you talk to. There were a couple guys. Billy Hamilton stole over 100 bases a couple times, but it was in the 1800s, and a lot of times the more modern records start around like 1903. So give you a little asterisk there. But for all intents and purposes, Juan Samuel holds the Phillies single season stolen base record with 72. And then in 2006, Jimmy Rollins, Shane Victorino, David DeLucci all homered as the Phillies pound the Mets 13-0. For Rollins, it was his 18th homer of the year. He broke Granny Hamner's record for most home runs in a season by a Philly at playing shortstop. Currently, Jimmy still owns that record with 30. He would hit that in 2007. But more importantly, in this game, the Phillies moved within 5.5 games of the wild card, got themselves back in this race, and ultimately led them to acquiring Jamie Moyer. They wouldn't chase down the wild card that year, but we know Jamie Moyer would pay dividends in 07 and 08. And then finally, more Jimmy Rollins. In 2012, he was playing in his 1,731st game as a Philly shortstop. He led off with his 3rd leadoff homer of the year, and that was it. That was the only run in the game. Phillies win it 1-0 over the Marlins, but get that 1,731 games mark broke Larry Bowa's team record for games played at shortstop. It's just a milestone day for Philly baseball. Jimmy Rollins breaks Larry Bowa's team record for games played at shortstop. He also set the Phillies single season record for home runs by a shortstop. Juan Samuel breaks the stolen base record in 1984. Pete Rose sets the Major League record for all-time at-bats. Mike Schmidt hits his 300 homer in 1981. And Jimmy Fox set the A's record with 9 RBIs while hitting for the cycle in the A's 11-5 win over Cleveland in 1933. We got an interesting weekend coming up. You got Phillies, Twins. You got Eagles, Ravens preseason. The NBA schedule is out. Not going to go through and do a game-by-game breakdown of the NBA schedule. That's just ridiculous. But lots of primetime games for the Sixers. You got the Union up in New York on Sunday night. Lots going on in Philly sports. And Sunday is going to be rainy, so plenty of time to watch these games. Luckily, the teams are all away, so you can just lay around and just be a couch potato on Sunday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for August 14th, 2026. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a feel-good Friday, a great weekend, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.